The rain had been falling for hours, a relentless curtain of gray that mirrored the turmoil in Liam's soul. He stood by the window of his opulent apartment, the city lights blurring into watery streaks, each one a phantom tear. Just an hour ago, his world had been a vibrant tapestry woven with threads of love, hope, and an exhilarating, terrifying secret. Now it was shredded, torn apart by the very hands that had nurtured him since birth. His parents, the architects of his gilded cage, and now the executioners of his heart. He closed his eyes, and her face appeared, as vivid as if she stood before him. Elara. Her eyes, the color of warm honey, usually sparkled with a mischievous light, but lately they held a softer glow, a deeper knowing. The gentle curve of her belly, barely discernible beneath her loose sweaters, was the secret they shared, the miracle that had solidified their bond into an unbreakable whole. Or so he had believed. They had met in a tiny, independent coffee shop near the university, a place Liam frequented to escape the suffocating formality of his family's circles. Elara was the barista, her laughter light and melodic, her wit sharp, her passion for obscure poetry infectious. She was everything his world wasn't, authentic, unpretentious, brimming with a quiet strength that drew him in like a moth to a flame. He was the scion of the prestigious Thorne Empire, a name synonymous with power, old money, and an unyielding commitment to legacy. She was a scholarship student, working 2 jobs to make ends meet, her dreams as vast and untamed as the ocean. They were an unlikely pair, a cliché almost, but their love had blossomed with an intensity that defied all logic, all societal expectations. When Elara had whispered the news of her pregnancy, fear had mingled with an overwhelming surge of joy. He had held her close, feeling the fragile hope of their future expanding with every beat of his heart. He'd promised her everything, a life, a home, a family. He'd sworn he would stand by her, against anyone, anything. He had been so utterly, hopelessly sure. But that was before the storm broke, before his mother, Eleanor Thorne, with her perfectly coiffed silver hair and eyes that could freeze a desert, had found the discreetly hidden ultrasound picture in his jacket pocket. Before his father, Richard Thorne, a man whose presence commanded rooms and whose words were law, had summoned him to the study, the same room where Liam had received lectures on corporate mergers, global economics, and the solemn duty of maintaining the Thorne legacy. The memory of the confrontation was a fresh wound, raw and bleeding. His mother's voice, usually a refined whisper, had been a sharp, cutting blade. A barista, Liam, a common girl, and pregnant? Have you lost your mind? Her fingers, adorned with diamond rings that sparkled like frozen tears, had trembled as she clutched the ultrasound photo. But his father had been chillingly calm. Sit down, Liam. This is not a discussion. This is a rectification. Richard had gestured to the plush leather armchair, and Liam, numb with dread, had obeyed. The air in the study had been thick with the scent of old leather and his father's expensive cigars, a smell that now made his stomach churn. This unfortunate incident, Richard had begun, his voice low and measured, will be handled. The girl will be compensated, generously, of course. She will sign an agreement ensuring her silence and the relinquishing of any claims to the child. Liam had shot out of his chair, the words a strangled cry. No, father, she's not the girl. She's Elara, and that's my child, our child. His mother had gasped, her hand flying to her chest as if physically wounded. Our child? Liam, you cannot be serious. This stain on our family name, the scandal. Do you have any idea what this would do to your inheritance, to the Thorne Corporation, to your future? My future is with Elara, he had retorted, his voice rising, a tremor of desperation in it. "I love her. We're going to be a family." Richard had slammed his fist on the polished mahogany desk, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "Love? Love is a fleeting emotion, Liam. Duty, legacy, power. These are the foundations of our world. You are a thorn. You have responsibilities. Responsibilities that transcend your fleeting affections for some penniless girl you met in a coffee shop." Then came the cruelest blow. "We have already made arrangements. The merger with the Sterling Group is contingent upon your engagement to Serafina Sterling. It has been planned for years, Liam. Her family's wealth combined with ours will create an unstoppable force. You will secure your position, your inheritance, and the future of this empire." Serafina Sterling. He knew her, of course. A beautiful, accomplished woman, polished and poised, just like his mother. She moved in the same elite circles, spoke the same language of power and privilege. She was everything his parents had ever wanted for him, and everything he didn't want.
"No," Liam had whispered, his voice broken. "I can't. I won't. I love Ilara." His father had leaned forward, his eyes like chips of ice. "You will, Liam, or you will find yourself disinherited, cut off, not a penny, not a share, not even the name. You will be cast out, and you will watch as Ilara and your bastard child struggle. Do you think a girl like her, without resources, without family support, can truly raise a child in poverty? Do you think she can survive the scrutiny, the whispers, the shame we will ensure follows her? We will make sure she has nothing, Liam, absolutely nothing, and you will be powerless to help her." The words had hung in the air, cold and heavy, a chilling promise. It wasn't just about his inheritance, his future. It was about Ilara's survival. His parents weren't just threatening him. They were threatening the woman he loved and their unborn child. They were holding Ilara's vulnerability hostage. He knew they were capable of it. Their power was absolute, their reach endless. They could crush Ilara, destroy her reputation, ensure she could never find work, never escape the shadow of their wrath. They could make her life a living hell, and he would be the cause of it, utterly helpless to intervene. The thought, the image of Ilara struggling, alone, broken because of his defiance, was a torment worse than any disinheritance. He loved her too much to let that happen. He loved her enough to sacrifice his own happiness, his own heart, if it meant protecting her. "And if you try to take the child," Eleanor had added, her voice regaining its usual icy composure, "we will ensure you never see them again. Not a single photograph, not a single visit. We have lawyers, Liam, the best. They will make sure your paternity is never officially acknowledged. She will be a single mother, yes, but you will be erased from the narrative entirely, a ghost. And she will never know it was for her own good, because you will tell her nothing." His parents had created a trap, a meticulously crafted cage with invisible bars. Every escape route was blocked, every choice leading to a worse outcome for Ilara. He was caught, utterly and irrevocably. He had stared at his father, at his mother, seeing not parents, but ruthless strategists, cold-blooded manipulators. The people who had raised him were strangers, monsters cloaked in designer suits and pearls. "So, what is it, Liam?" Richard had pressed, his voice like the click of a closing vault door. "Your love, your common girl, and a life of poverty and shame for you both, with us ensuring her utter ruin? Or your duty, your legacy, and a life of comfort for her, albeit without you, and a future for the Thorn Empire, secured by your marriage to Serafina Sterling?" The choice was no choice at all. It was a brutal ultimatum, a Sophie's choice dressed in silk and wealth. He had to save Ilara. He had to ensure her safety, her child's future, even if it meant tearing his own heart out. He felt the words die in his throat, the fight draining from him, leaving behind a hollow, aching void. What do I have to do?" he had managed to croak, the sound barely audible. His mother had smiled, a faint, chilling curve of her lips. "You will break up with her, Liam, convincingly. You will tell her it was a mistake, a youthful folly, that you were never serious, that you can't possibly be tied down, that you're not ready for a child, for responsibility. You will make her hate you, Liam. It will be easier for her." Easier for her. The words mocked him. How could he make her hate him when all he felt was an agonizing, overwhelming love? How could he rip her heart out and pretend it was for her own good? "And then," his father had continued, "you will discreetly disappear for a few weeks. A business trip, a family emergency. Enough time for her to process, to start healing. We will ensure she receives a substantial sum, anonymously, for her and the child's future. And then, upon your return, you will announce your engagement to Seraphina Sterling, publicly, enthusiastically. There will be no hint of this misstep." Liam had stood there, a puppet whose strings had just been pulled taut, leaving him suspended, lifeless. He was trapped, utterly and irrevocably. His love, his future, his very soul was being sacrificed on the altar of family legacy and corporate power. The rain outside his window continued its mournful song, a dirge for the life he was about to lose, for the love he was about to betray. He was a prisoner of his birthright, a pawn in a game he never wanted to play, and the worst part, he knew he had no choice but to play along, for Ilara's sake.
He had to do it. He had to become the villain, the callous, heartless man his parents demanded he be. For her, for their child. The thought was a bitter poison, but it was the only path that ensured their survival. He looked out at the city, a vast, indifferent beast, and felt a profound loneliness settle over him, a cold dread that would never truly lift. The man he was, the man who loved Ilara unconditionally, was about to die, and in his place a hollow shell would emerge, bound by duty, enslaved by wealth, forever haunted by the ghost of a love he was forced to abandon. The stage was set for a tragedy, and he was the reluctant lead, compelled to deliver the performance of his life, even if it meant destroying everything he held dear. The next morning, the air still damp and heavy, Liam found himself walking towards the small, unassuming apartment building where Ilara lived. Each step felt like a lead weight dragging him deeper into an abyss. His throat was tight, his palms sweaty. He had rehearsed the words his mother had given him, cruel, cutting words designed to wound, to sever, to leave no room for hope. Each syllable was a shard of glass, ready to tear at his own flesh as he spoke them. He saw her through the window of their usual cafe, a place they'd frequented for quick breakfasts before their respective busy days. She was sitting at their favorite corner table, a book open before her, a gentle smile playing on her lips as she sipped her tea. The sight of her, so full of innocent happiness, twisted the knife in her gut. How could he do this? How could he look into those warm, honey eyes and lie, betraying everything they had built? He pushed through the door, the bell above chiming a cheerful tune that felt like a mockery. Ilara looked up, her face lighting up instantly. "Liam, you're early. I was just reading this incredible passage." She trailed off, her smile faltering as she took in his pale face, the haunted look in his eyes. "Liam, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." He forced himself to sit opposite her, the small table suddenly feeling like a vast, unbridgeable chasm.
He gripped his hands under the table, digging his nails into his palms, trying to ground himself, to prepare for the devastation he was about to unleash. "Ilara," he began, his voice raspy, unfamiliar even to himself. He swallowed hard. "We need to talk." Her brow furrowed with concern. She reached across the table, her soft hand gently covering his clenched fist. "Liam, you're scaring me. What is it?" He pulled his hand away, a deliberate, brutal action that made her flinch. This isn't working, Ilara." The first lie. Each word felt like a physical assault. Her eyes widened, confusion clouding their warmth. "What isn't working? Us? Liam, what are you talking about?" "Us," he repeated, forcing a detached, cold tone. "It's just this whole relationship. It was a mistake, a phase." A sharp intake of breath from her, her face drained of color. "A mistake? A phase? Liam, we're having a baby," she whispered, desperate with disbelief. He had to make it worse, had to drive the knife deeper. "Exactly. And I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for any of this. I was caught up in the romance, the novelty, but I've had time to think, and it's just not for me. I can't be a father. I can't be tied down to a domestic life. It's not who I am." A tear finally escaped, tracing a path down her cheek. "You're lying," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I know you, Liam. This isn't you. Someone got to you, didn't they? Your parents?" He clenched his jaw, fighting the urge to confess everything, to fall to his knees and beg her forgiveness. But he couldn't. He had to protect her. He had to be the monster. "My parents have nothing to do with this. This is my decision. I've realized that I'm just not cut out for this kind of commitment. I'm not capable of being a good husband, a good father. You deserve someone who is." "And you think I deserve this? To be abandoned, pregnant by the man I love, the man who promised me forever?"
"It's better this way, Ilara," he said, the words tasting like ash. "You'll be better off without me. You'll find someone who truly wants to be with you, who truly wants a family. Someone who isn't me." She stood up abruptly, knocking her chair back with a loud scrape. Her eyes, now blazing with a mixture of pain and fury, pierced him. "You coward! You absolute coward! You're just like them, aren't you? All about your precious freedom, your gilded life, while you leave wreckage in your wake. I can't believe I ever loved you. I can't believe I was so blind." He could feel the tremor in his hands, the burning behind his eyes, but he held it together. He had to. "I'm sorry, Ilara. I truly am. But it's over. This is goodbye." He pushed himself up from the table, his legs feeling like jelly. Every fiber of his being screamed to stay, to hold her, to explain, to fight. But he couldn't. He had to walk away. "Don't you dare walk away from me, Liam Thorne," she shrieked, her voice raw with anguish. "Don't you dare! You'll regret this. You'll regret this for the rest of your life." He didn't look back. He couldn't. He walked out of the cafe, the cheerful bell ringing his damnation, leaving Ilara shattered amidst the wreckage of their dreams. He kept walking, the rain starting again, cold and cleansing on his face, mingling with the tears he refused to shed, the tears that burned unshed behind his eyes. He was a monster. He had done it. He had sacrificed his love, his soul, for her safety. The cost was immeasurable. He wandered the streets for hours. The image of Ilara's broken face burned into his mind. Her words, "You'll regret this for the rest of your life," echoed in his ears, a chilling prophecy he knew would come true. He was a hollow man, an empty vessel, carrying the weight of a betrayal he had been forced to commit. True to his parents' demands, he disappeared for a few weeks. A remote family estate in the Caribbean, a place of forced solitude and crushing guilt. He tried to drown his sorrow in work, in exercise, in anything that would numb the incessant ache in his chest. But Elara was everywhere, in the sound of the waves, in the scent of jasmine, in the taste of his morning coffee. Every sunrise was a reminder of the future he had thrown away. Every sunset a testament to the darkness he now inhabited. When he returned to the city, the engagement to Serafina Sterling was announced with all the pomp and circumstance his parents could muster. A lavish party at the Thorne family mansion, attended by the city's elite. Serafina was stunning, draped in silk and diamonds, her smile radiant, her eyes sparkling with genuine happiness. She was everything a man of his standing was supposed to marry. And he was a ghost beside her, a polite, smiling automaton, his heart a gaping wound beneath his tailored suit. He played his part flawlessly. He smiled for the cameras, he danced with Serafina, he exchanged pleasantries with the guests, all the while feeling utterly disconnected, observing himself from a great distance. He saw the satisfaction in his parents' eyes, the quiet triumph. They had won. They had molded him into the perfect heir, even if it meant breaking him in the process. Serafina, oblivious to the storm raging within him, was genuinely enamored by him. She had known Liam since childhood, a distant, handsome figure from their intertwined social circles. She saw him as the ideal partner, intelligent, well-mannered, and destined for greatness. She saw a future of shared power and prestige, a dynasty built on solid foundations. She couldn't possibly know the depths of his despair, the phantom ache that clung to him like a shroud. He was a good actor, a master of deception, a skill honed by years of living under his parents' watchful eyes. The wedding, 6 months later, was an affair of breathtaking grandeur. A cathedral ceremony, a reception at the most exclusive club, media coverage, and a guest list that read like a who's who of global finance and aristocracy. He stood at the altar, looking at Serafina, resplendent in white, and felt nothing but a profound emptiness. He exchanged vows, made promises he knew he could never truly keep, and placed a ring on her finger. He was officially bound, not by love, but by duty, by a cruel bargain struck in the name of legacy. Life with Serafina was a meticulously choreographed dance of appearances. They lived in a magnificent penthouse overlooking Central Park, their days filled with charity galas, corporate meetings, and social obligations. Serafina was kind, intelligent, and fiercely loyal to him, to their union. She genuinely tried to connect with him, to build a life together. But a wall, impenetrable and invisible, stood between them. He was present, but never truly there. His mind often drifted to a small cafe, to honey-colored eyes, to the phantom weight of a tiny hand in his.
They had 2 children, a boy named Arthur and a girl named Clara, both embodying the Thorne and Sterling lineages with their striking features and sharp intellects. Liam loved his children fiercely, a love that was pure and unburdened by his past. He poured himself into being a good father to them, trying to give them the warmth and unconditional affection he had been denied. Yet even in their laughter, a bittersweet pang of guilt would strike him. He had another child out there, a child he had abandoned, a child who would never know his love, his presence. Years turned into a decade, then 2. The Thorne Empire flourished under Liam's leadership. He became the man his father had always envisioned, powerful, respected, formidable. But the cost was immense. He carried a secret burden, a silent grief that never truly dissipated. He saw Ilara's face in the fleeting glimpse of a woman on the street, in the eyes of a child who resembled her. Each time his breath would catch, his heart would clench, and the old wound would reopen, fresh and raw. He had tried through discreet channels to ensure Ilara and the child were truly cared for. Anonymous trust funds, educational scholarships, opportunities that appeared as if by chance. He had hoped, desperately, that his sacrifice had indeed given them a better life. But he never dared to seek them out directly. His parents' threats still echoed in his mind. The total severance, the destruction of Ilara's reputation if he ever broke the silence. He was a phantom father, a silent guardian, watching from the shadows, forever separated by the chasm of his parents' making. Meanwhile, Ilara's life had been a testament to resilience and unwavering strength. The initial shock and devastation had nearly broken her. The betrayal, the callous words, the abrupt abandonment, it had all felt like a physical blow. She had spent weeks in a fog of despair, her heart aching, her body heavy with the weight of both grief and new life. But as the weeks turned into months, a fierce determination began to ignite within her. She was not just Ilara anymore. She was a mother, and her child, Liam's child, deserved a life free from the shadows of his betrayal. The anonymous financial support had arrived like a lifeline, a bewildering, unexpected gift. It had been enough to ease her immediate anxieties, allowing her to finish her degree, to find a better, more stable job. She moved to a different part of the city, seeking a fresh start, a new identity, far from the echoes of Liam Thorne and his devastating lies. She never questioned where the money came from, only accepted it as a blessing, a miracle that allowed her to provide for her daughter, Maya. Maya was a vibrant, intelligent, and fiercely independent child, growing into a remarkable young woman. She had Ilara's warm eyes, but there was a certain intensity, a thoughtfulness in her gaze that often reminded Ilara of Liam. Maya had a natural curiosity, a keen intellect, and a passion for justice that burned bright. Ilara had raised her with love, honesty, and an unwavering belief in her potential. When Maya had asked her about her father, Ilara had told her a carefully crafted truth, that he was a man who loved her, but was too young, too afraid of commitment to be a father. It was a softened version of the pain, designed to protect Maya from the full weight of Liam's betrayal, while still acknowledging his existence. She had never spoken his name, never revealed his true identity. She didn't want Maya to carry the burden of a painful past or to feel the sting of rejection. Maya, however, was a perceptive child. She noticed the slight hesitation in her mother's voice whenever the topic of her father arose. She saw the flash of pain in Ilara's eyes, quickly masked whenever a romantic movie played on screen. As she grew older, the vague answers no longer satisfied her. She saw other children with their fathers, heard stories of paternal love and guidance, and a quiet longing began to stir within her. Who was he? Why did he leave? Was he really just a coward, or was there more to the story? Her curiosity intensified in her late teens. She was studying journalism, developing a sharp investigative mind. The world of secrets fascinated her, the untold stories, the hidden truths. She began to piece together fragments, the sudden influx of money that had allowed her mother to thrive, the way her mother always avoided certain parts of the city, the subtle shifts in her demeanor when the subject of wealthy families came up in conversation. It was a puzzle, and Maya, with her burgeoning journalistic instincts, was determined to solve it.
She started small, poring over old financial records, looking for anomalies. The anonymous donations, untraceable but substantial, confirmed her suspicions that her mother hadn't just gotten lucky. There was a benefactor, a silent hand guiding their lives. A father, perhaps? were someone connected to him. Her research led her down a rabbit hole of corporate filings, news archives, and socialite gossip columns from 2 decades prior. She discovered the Thorne family, their immense wealth, their impeccable reputation. And then a small, almost forgotten article from a society magazine announcing the engagement of Liam Thorne, heir to the Thorne Empire, to Seraphina Sterling, mere weeks after her mother's supposed abandonment. The timeline clicked into place with a sickening thud. The dates, the circumstances, the suddenness of it all. It was too precise to be a coincidence. Her father hadn't just been a young, scared man. He had been Liam Thorne, the son of one of the most powerful families in the country, forced to marry an heiress. The pieces of the puzzle, once scattered and fragmented, began to form a terrifyingly clear picture. It wasn't just a breakup, it was a sacrifice, a betrayal born of coercion, of class conflict, of a ruthless pursuit of power. Maya felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, confusion, a deep sense of injustice. Her mother had protected her from the truth, shielding her from the ugliness of it all. But Maya was no longer a child. She needed to know. She needed to confront the ghosts of her past, to understand the man who had abandoned them and the family who had orchestrated it. She began her own investigation, a clandestine operation, driven by a burning desire for answers. She used her nascent journalistic skills, digging deeper, cross-referencing information, building a case. She found old photographs of Liam Thorne from his younger days, before the hardened lines of power had etched themselves onto his face. And in those photos, she saw a resemblance to herself, a startling familiarity in the curve of his smile, the intensity in his eyes. There was no denying it. He was her father. The revelation brought a new layer of complexity to her feelings. It wasn't just anger, there was a flicker of understanding. He hadn't just left them, he had been forced to. But did that excuse him? Did the circumstances absolve him of the pain he had caused? She didn't know. All she knew was that she needed to find him, to look him in the eye and demand the truth, the full, unvarnished story. One crisp autumn afternoon, Maya found herself standing outside the imposing gates of the Thorne estate, a place of immense beauty and formidable power. Her heart pounded in her chest, a drumbeat of anticipation and fear. She had found his public schedule, knowing he would be returning from a board meeting around this time. This was it, the moment of truth. When Liam's sleek black car pulled up, she stepped forward, directly into its path. The driver slammed on the brakes, and Liam, startled, looked up from his tablet. His eyes, now slightly shadowed with the weight of years, met hers. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. He saw a young woman with warm honey eyes, a determined chin, and a familiar tilt to her head. A gasp escaped him, a sound he hadn't made in decades. It was Alara, but younger, bolder, stronger. It was his daughter. Maya held up an old, faded photograph, a picture of Liam and Alara, young and carefree, taken years ago, before everything shattered. "Liam Thorne?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "My name is Maya, and I think you're my father." The world tilted on its axis for Liam. The carefully constructed facade of his life cracked, revealing the raw, festering wound beneath. He stepped out of the car, his legs unsteady. "Maya," he whispered, the name a foreign yet deeply familiar sound on his lips. His eyes filled with a mixture of shock, terror, and an overwhelming, bittersweet longing, searched her face, confirming what his heart already knew. This was his child, the daughter he had been forced to abandon, now standing before him, a living, breathing testament to his greatest regret. The confrontation that followed was nothing short of an emotional earthquake. Liam, stunned and visibly shaken, led Maya into a secluded part of the estate, away from prying eyes. He sat opposite her, his hands clasped tightly, his gaze fixed on her face, trying to reconcile the young woman before him with the ghost he had carried in his heart for so long. How did you find me?" he asked, his voice hoarse, barely a whisper. My eyes so much like Ilara's hardened with a resolve that both frightened and captivated him. "I'm a journalist, Mr. Thorne. I specialize in finding hidden truths, and my truth led me here, to you." She laid out her findings, the timeline, the corporate merger, the engagement to Serafina. Each fact was a hammer blow, stripping away his carefully constructed defenses.
He listened, his head bowed, the weight of his past pressing down on him. When she finished, the silence was deafening, broken only by the chirping of distant birds. "Your mother, Ilara, is she well?" he finally managed to ask, the name of fragile prayer. "She's incredible," Maya said, a fierce pride in her voice. "She raised me, alone, with strength and grace. She taught me everything. She protected me from all of this. But I needed to know the truth, and now I do." Her voice cracked slightly. "So tell me, Mr. Thorne, was it worth it? Was the Thorne Empire, the power, the money, was it worth abandoning us? Worth shattering her heart and denying me a father?" Liam looked up, his eyes brimming with a pain so profound it seemed to age him decades in an instant. "No, Maya. Never. It was never worth it. Not for a single moment." He began to speak, the words tumbling out, a torrent of confession he had held captive for 20 years. He told her everything, the ultimatum, his parents' threats, the desperate choice he was forced to make, the fear that had consumed him for Ilara's safety, for their child's well-being. He spoke of the anonymous support, his futile attempts to ease their burden from afar, the silent agony of watching her grow up from a distance. Maya listened, her expression a mix of anger, sorrow, and a dawning understanding. The story was far more complex, far more tragic than she had imagined. It wasn't just a simple act of cowardice, it was a crushing sacrifice born of a brutal, unforgiving system. "They threatened to destroy her," Liam confessed, his voice breaking, "to ensure she had nothing, that you would grow up in abject poverty, with no support, no future. They swore they would prevent me from ever seeing you, ever acknowledging you. They made it clear that if I defied them, they would make Ilara's life a living hell. And I couldn't let that happen. I loved her too much to let them hurt her. I chose to be the villain, to break her heart, to save her from a far worse fate. It was the only way I knew how to protect you both." Tears streamed down Maya's face, mirroring his own. The raw honesty, the depth of his suffering was undeniable. The man before her wasn't just a powerful magnate, he was a broken man, haunted by a past he couldn't escape. "And you lived with that? That lie? For 20 years?" she whispered. He nodded, his shoulders slumping. "Every single day, Maya. Every single moment. It's been a gilded cage, a living hell. I've built an empire, but I lost my soul in the process. I loved your mother more than life itself, and I loved you before you were even born. That love never died. It just went into hiding." The revelation brought a strange sense of closure, yet also opened new wounds. Maya felt a profound sadness for her father, for the life he had been forced to live, for the love he had lost, but also a burgeoning sense of compassion. He wasn't the callous monster she had imagined. He was a victim, just as they were, of his parents' ruthless ambition. "Does Mom know any of this?" Maya asked, wiping her tears. "No," Liam said, shaking his head. "She believes I was a coward.
a selfish, spoiled man. And I let her believe that. It was easier for her to hate me than to know the truth, to carry the burden of what my family did. She deserves to know, Maya insisted. After all these years, she deserves the truth. And so do I. We deserve to know the full story. Liam looked at her, a spark of resolve, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes for the first time in decades. "You're right," he said, his voice stronger now. "You both do. I don't know how. My parents, they're still formidable, even now, after all these years." "They don't control you anymore, Dad," Maya said, using the word that felt both foreign and utterly right. "You're a grown man. You're the head of the Thorn Empire. It's time to reclaim your life, to tell your truth, to face them and to face Mom." The idea was terrifying, exhilarating. The thought of confronting his parents, of finally breaking free from their chains, filled him with a mixture of dread and a desperate longing for redemption. And Alara, the thought of seeing her again, of explaining, of laying bare his wounded soul, was almost unbearable. But Maya was right. It was time.
The next day, Liam sought out his parents. He found them in their stately drawing room, oblivious, as always, to the emotional earthquakes they had caused. Eleanor was reading a financial newspaper. Richard was on the phone, discussing a new acquisition. "Mother, Father," Liam said, his voice firm, unwavering. He had Maya waiting outside, a silent, powerful presence. They looked up, surprised by his formal tone. "Liam, what is it? You seem agitated," Eleanor observed, her eyes narrowing slightly. "I'm not agitated, Mother. I'm finally free," he stated, his gaze fixed on them. "Maya found me. Ilara's daughter. My daughter." The color drained from Eleanor's face. Richard's phone slipped from his grasp, clattering to the floor. "What did you say?" Richard demanded, his voice suddenly sharp, dangerous. "You heard me," Liam replied, a steely resolve hardening his features. "The girl you forced me to abandon, the child you made me deny, she's here. She's grown into an incredible young woman, and she knows the truth about what you did, what you forced me to do. And now, Ilara will know too." Eleanor gasped, clutching her pearls. "Liam, have you lost your mind? The scandal, the damage to our name." "Your name? Your name is already stained, Mother," Liam retorted, his voice rising, the decades of suppressed anger finally erupting. "Stained with cruelty, with manipulation, with the broken hearts of innocent people. You destroyed my life. You destroyed Ilara's life, all for the sake of your precious legacy, your empire. But no more. I am done. Done living your lie. Done playing your puppet." Richard stood up, his face flushed with fury. "You dare defy us, Liam? After everything we've given you? Everything we built for you?" "You built a prison, Father," Liam countered, his voice ringing with conviction. "A golden cage, and I am breaking free. I will tell Ilara everything. I will tell my children, Arthur and Clara, the truth about their father's past. I will acknowledge Maya as my daughter, publicly if necessary. And if you try to stop me, if you try to hurt Ilara or Maya in any way, I will use every ounce of the power you so desperately craved for me to wield against you. I will dismantle everything you hold dear. Do you understand?" The threat hung in the air, potent and undeniable. Liam Thorne was no longer the malleable son they had once controlled. He was a force to be reckoned with, forged in the fires of his own suffering. His parents, for the first time, saw a stranger in their son, a man they no longer recognized, a man who had finally found his voice. They saw the consequences of their own ruthless actions staring them in the face. Liam didn't wait for their response. He turned and walked out, Maya waiting just beyond the door, her hand reaching out to his. He squeezed it, a silent promise of a new beginning. The most difficult step remained, facing Elara. Maya, with her compassionate heart and her understanding of her mother's strength, arranged the meeting. It was in a neutral space, a quiet park bench, bathed in the soft glow of a late afternoon sun. Elara arrived first, her posture still graceful, her eyes still holding that familiar warmth, though now tinged with a lifetime of experience. She saw Liam approaching, accompanied by Maya. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of surprise, wariness, and a flicker of something he couldn't quite decipher. Liam approached her slowly, his heart pounding a desperate rhythm. "Elara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's been a long time." She nodded, her gaze steady. 20 years, Liam, and now you're here, with our daughter." Her eyes softened as she looked at Maya, a silent testament to the bond they shared. "Mom," Maya began, her voice gentle, "Dad has something he needs to tell you, something he should have told you a long, long time ago." Liam took a deep breath, the confession he had rehearsed for decades, finally ready to be spoken. He looked into Elara's eyes, the eyes he had loved, had hurt, had never forgotten. "Elara, I know you hate me. I know you think I'm a coward, a selfish man who abandoned you and our child. And for 20 years I let you believe that, because I thought it was the only way to protect you." He then recounted the entire story, just as he had told Maya, laying bare his soul, his fear, his forced sacrifice. He didn't ask for forgiveness, he only offered the truth, raw and unvarnished.
Elara listened, her face a canvas of shifting emotions. Shock, disbelief, a dawning horror, and then a profound sadness. Tears welled in her eyes, not tears of anger, but of understanding, of a shared sorrow. You did that to save us?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You let me hate you. You let me suffer, so that Maya and I could have a life?" He nodded, unable to speak, his own tears blurring her image. "It was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I've lived with the guilt, the regret, the profound loneliness every single day." She reached out, her hand trembling, and gently touched his cheek. "Oh, Liam, my poor Liam, all these years of pain for both of us." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was understanding. It was the first step towards healing, towards acknowledging the shared tragedy that had defined their lives. The class conflict that had torn them apart, the ruthless power of old money, had left indelible scars on all of them. But now, with the truth finally laid bare, there was a faint glimmer of hope, a fragile possibility of redemption. The road ahead was long and complex. There were years of silence to unravel, new relationships to forge, and old wounds to mend. Liam faced the difficult task of integrating Maya into his life, of being a father to her, and explaining the complicated truth to Arthur and Clara, his children with Serafina. Serafina, when she eventually learned the full extent of Liam's past, was devastated, not just by the betrayal, but by the realization that her entire marriage had been built on a foundation of lies and a forced bargain. Her own pain was immense, and her journey to understanding and potentially forgiving Liam would be long and arduous. His parents, stripped of their power over him, faced the quiet, chilling reality of their son's defiance. They watched, helpless, as Liam, with Maya by his side, began to publicly acknowledge his past, to quietly support organizations fighting class inequality, to use his immense resources to uplift those who, like Elara once was, were vulnerable to the whims of the powerful.
He was no longer just the thorn heir. He was a man who had confronted his past, redefined his legacy, and was striving to make amends. Ilara, too, found a new path. The truth, while painful, released her from the bitterness she had unknowingly carried. She didn't rekindle a romantic relationship with Liam. The past was too deeply scarred for that. But a deep, abiding friendship, a mutual respect, began to grow between them. They were united by their love for Maya and by the shared understanding of the immense, crushing weight of circumstance and class. She saw the man he could have been, the man he was forced to betray, and the man he was striving to become. Maya, the catalyst for it all, found her own sense of peace. She had her father in a complicated, unconventional way. She had the full truth, and with it a deeper understanding of her own origins, her own identity. She continued her journalism, now with an even keener sense of purpose, focusing on stories of social injustice, of hidden truths, of the human cost of power and privilege. Her story, the story of romances and class conflicts, became her driving force, her personal mission. Liam, though forever marked by his past, found a new kind of freedom. He was no longer a prisoner of his birthright, but a man charting his own course, guided by his conscience, his love for his children, and the enduring memory of the love he had lost, but ultimately protected. The rain still fell sometimes, but it no longer felt like a dirge. It felt like cleansing, a washing away of the old, making way for a future, however complex, built on truth, not lies. The scars remained, a permanent reminder of the price of privilege, but so too did the strength, the resilience, and the enduring power of a love that, even when betrayed, somehow found a way to survive. If this story of love, betrayal, and class conflict resonated with you, and you appreciate tales that delve into the complex struggles of the human heart against societal pressures, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing these powerful narratives to light. Thank you for watching.